Hey, soccer fans, this is Nick, and welcome back to another episode of the Feed the Fire podcast, where we're talking about all things Chicago Fire and Major League Soccer, and maybe a few other things that pop up and are interesting, at least I think that are interesting in my life, such as my voice finally recovering from the long Memorial Day weekend, where I was coaching our church's youth soccer team, the 7 to 9 year old group in the Junior Olympics, a competition where all the Greek Orthodox churches in the Chicago metropolis or diocese uh, end up coming down to Palos Hills and having a major tournament. So there's basketball, there's soccer, there's tennis, swimming, even chess, checkers, and backgammon, among other games that are played. So it was so much fun being back on the sidelines coaching a team. I got to spend the morning watching my daughter in the checkers tournament, my son in the chess tournament. Unfortunately, no medals this year, but they did each win a game. So I was very happy they got to at least experience a victory, even though not qualifying for a medal. And then my son played in the 7 to 9 year old soccer tournament. And these tournaments are usually won by the churches who have, 4 or 5 kids who play organized soccer or are big enough where they have their own like house league and they can play regularly or have their own athletic program. So we went up against one of those churches in the first round. And unfortunately, or should I say, fortunately, the other coach put his best line about. They ran up 4 quick goals and then they put in their subs and I just was kind of rotating my lines to make sure every kid got a chance to play. So it was a humbling experience, but I think we had maybe 2 kids who have ever played organized soccer, 3 kids. So I wasn't going to put a lot of stock into that result. But what I was proud of, my daughter, who hasn't played soccer since last year's Junior Olympics, and before that hadn't played since she was like 7 years old, right out of COVID. I was really proud that she laced up her old cleats, threw on her old shin guards, and jumped onto the 10 to 12 year old team. And she was playing right back. And yeah, even though that team lost, they put up a pretty good fight. It was one of those where our 3 best players kept the game level, and then they had to leave for the basketball tournament, and then the other team just kind of piled it on at the end of the match. But I was really proud of my daughter getting out there, trying something outside of her comfort zone, playing soccer with her friends. And then because they had no subs, they let my son, who's 9, play up with the 10 and 12s. And holy cow, he really came into his own in this game. He was playing center mid, attacking mid. I don't think the coaches really had much of a formation. They're just like, we're not going to win this game. Go and have fun, kids. And he was like throwing hip checks around with some of these kids who are 2 and 3 years older than him. It was impressive. I was like, this guy, he might have a future in the sport. There might be something for him here. Anyway, if he can just make the varsity high school team, I'll be happy with it, and we'll take it from there. But anyway, that was my weekend. I'm finally recovering from my losing my voice, just kind of yelling in support and just talking to everyone. I mean, anytime you get a couple thousand Greeks together, it's like a big old family reunion. So we were just talking and having a good time all Saturday, and finally got my voice back a bit. So happy to be talking with you here about the Chicago Fire and Major League Soccer. I want to first knock out a couple housekeeping things. Remember, our show is sponsored by Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. Please go out, support our sponsor, buy that Skira Icelandic Spring Water that comes from a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland. Skira Icelandic for clear, and clearly, pun intended, it is one of the best waters you can get. Again, available at your local 7-Eleven. Also, I have been remiss in not mentioning the comments I'm receiving on Spotify. I have moved my hosting services from Spotify to Believe, and kind of, wasn't able to access it for a while. I finally was able to get back in, and I want to recognize a number of comments over the last several weeks from all of you listeners out there who have been leaving comments and listening on Spotify. So Blaze Diaz from last episode, can someone get John a pronunciation guide for the players' names, please? And Blaze, I think that's all part of John's charm, is just getting through the pronunciation or mispronunciation of it all. And honestly, it may go back to the very first soccer podcast I did. It was called Sons of a Pitch. I did it with a partner of mine, Mike G, who you can now find him. He just hit 100,000 subscribers on his Toronto Sports Insider YouTube channel. So if you ever listened to us back 8 years ago, 7 years ago, when we were just starting podcasting in my garage and hearing the planes flying into O'Hare overhead, Mike has come a long way and has found a lot of success with his Toronto Sports Insider channel. But really, Blaze, there was a joke that Mike and I had because we were Sons of a Pitch, an American soccer podcast, and we just talked about anything and everything American soccer, MLS, USL, USMNT, youth stuff with our kids, whatever it was. And because we're Americans, we don't know how to pronounce cultural and ethnic names, so we would kind of purposely make a bit out of mispronouncing some of the names. So I'm going to just say that John is continuing on the bit from the original show from some years back. And yeah, even Jose left a comment that said, love how John says Bamba when referring to Joe Bamba. That's great. Also, we got to talk a little KDB, Kevin De Bruyne. It looks like he has signed a contract with Napoli that he will not be coming to Chicago. You want to take a moral victory and say, hey, a player of his caliber and quality came down to playing for the reigning Serie A champions or the Chicago Fire. I think that's pretty good company there, but ultimately it doesn't look like he's going to be coming here. And Blaze actually had a comment on that and said it would be very short-sighted of the Fire to sell Guti when KDB is much older. They need to think long-term as well. And you're absolutely right, Blaze. And the long-term plan, I think it's there. Like, right, Greg Berhalter obviously knows how to build a club and sustain a club. Mansueto knows how to sustain a company. These guys that Berhalter's brought in and surrounded himself within the Chicago Fire sporting side of things are MLS vets. They know how to build a club and sustain a club. So this isn't kind of like a flash in the pan like you see some of these Major League Baseball teams getting rent-a-pitchers. I think there is a plan for this team. There has to be a plan for this team. But you get the money from the Guti sale, you can reinvest it. And I would bring this up often last season, looking at LAFC as the example. You sell a player for 7-8 million, and then you reinvest it in 2 or 3 players at $2 or $3 million each a season, for their salary. So you're still getting a very, very high quality MLS player, DP level player, but you're not putting all your transfer fees in one basket, so to say. And so I think that would be part of the plan. And they have a very long list of DPs. We saw that when they were going after Zinckernagel. They also were pursuing Anders Dreyer, who's now with San Diego. They have said that we have a long list of DPs. We've got other targets that we're pursuing now that we haven't landed Kevin De Bruyne. So, yes, I agree with you. It would be, in a sense, short-sighted to move Guti without having a player in place. But I think they were looking to bring in a DP level midfielder to replace Gutierrez. I think that is the plan there. So I don't think they're as short-sighted as you're commenting here, but I appreciate where you're coming from. Also, from a few weeks ago, Jose says some things are certain: death, taxes, and John butchering names. That's great. Lawson, thank you for letting me know about John's the volume on that. I'm trying to adjust it in any way. And John, when you're listening, see if you can maybe increase the volume on your bits. Here, Austin Copland, ILLINI, Austin, thank you. Ellie says I have forgotten about Sam Williams. Ellie, I think you're our resident Red Bull fan here, so there's no way I could have forgotten about Sam Williams. But there was just a lot of other things going on and talking about the Fire. So thank you everyone who's been commenting on Spotify. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who continues to write in on email, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com. I really do appreciate it. We got another email from our friend Tom in Geneva, and this is what he writes about the match against NYC, and I'll use this as kind of my segue into reviewing that match. So this is what Tom says. Regarding Sunday's game versus NYCFC, I hate to admit I got angry while watching it. You know what, Tom? So did I. I was so looking forward to and had eagerly waited since Tuesday's game, another Fire victory, and we were well on our way until Gutierrez pulled his nonsense yet again. He used to be my favorite player on the team, but I'm really growing tired of his immaturity on the pitch. Second red card, eerily reminiscent of his first one this season. Did he not learn anything from the first go round? Triple G has to ensure that Guti learns a hard lesson on this one to the point where we don't have to worry about Guti getting another red this season. I'm okay if MLS tacks another game on the automatic one gamer. That's how annoyed I am with him. Would rather see Acosta or someone else. Tom, great point. And a lot of the conversation has been around Gutierrez's maturity level and what he's thinking, what he thinks he can get away with. And I get he is going to be, and I think I talked about this a little bit in the last episode. If he's going to be the main playmaker, he's got to be ready to be hacked and to be attacked and to be targeted by the opponents. And he's got to learn to play through that and play above that, not trying to throw a cheap elbow in retaliation and absolutely getting caught. Not only when there's three officials on the field and a fourth official, there's also VAR, and there's also the league watching all these things afterwards, the disciplinary committee reviewing all the game footage and assessing, fines and penalties after the fact. And in fact, this one, so Gutierrez didn't get an additional suspension, but he did get fined for the violent conduct and got fined for not leaving the pitch in a reasonable time. Same as Jay Davila with his red card. He was also fined for not leaving the pitch in a reasonable amount of time. Now, I would love to know what goes into the MLS Disciplinary Commission's idea of what is a reasonable amount of time. And as an attorney, the reasonableness standard is applied in so many different areas of the law, and it's pretty much there so we can justify whatever outcome we want to happen. Oh, yeah, that was totally reasonable that time. Or, yeah, these fees are totally reasonable. Or, yeah, the way my client acted was completely reasonable in response to the unreasonable actions of the opposition here. Again, it's just a way to kind of justify what you want to happen. And unfortunately, I think the Fire have gotten a little bit of a bad rap. I've mentioned that before. And with Gutierrez having a second violent conduct red card of the season, he has drawn the attention of the disciplinary commission and of the referee. So he does need to learn a hard lesson. And for that, I am in agreement with you, Tom. Berhalter's got to do something. But here's the rub. Let me just kind of give it the other side of it for a second. Our best midfield performances have been Pineda, Orahel, Gutierrez. Are you willing to risk dropping points to teach Gutierrez a lesson? Now, if the Fire were in like 5th to 7th, maybe. But right now in the standings, they are in 11th. They are 3 points below the play-in game. So there's really not a lot of wiggle room here. So I don't know if that is something that should even be considered, or if we will put the maturation and development of these players ahead of, a couple of points against Orlando City this weekend. But those are just some of the different arguments that are out there. I agree with you in that you would rather see Acosta, but not for Gutierrez in this situation. I would have liked to see Acosta come in instead of Jay Davila in this particular match. That game seemed like the perfect opportunity for Kellyn Acosta. So I don't know why he would be in Berhalter's doghouse. I haven't heard anything or read anything to that effect. I don't know if he's just not feeling fit. He's not on the injured list. But for him to come into a situation playing at New York City, small pitch, you can, if you're going to change your tactics to play for the draw, that seems like the perfect opportunity for Acosta to come in, settle the game down, use his veteran presence and leadership to kind of direct things out of the midfield. And then, you know what? It also seemed like one of those perfect moments where in like the 84th minute, Acosta takes a rip from 23 yards out and maybe finds the back of the net when no one's paying attention to him. So I think this was a big miss in the game. This was a tactical and managerial miss. At the end of the day, I don't know if Berhalter had pushed all the right buttons that the Fire come out with anything better than a draw, given the red card trouble that they were in. But there did seem to be an awfully quick reversion to let's just play for the draw. Let's just get out of here with a point. Let's put in Davila. Let's make some defensive subs early. And that really allowed NYC to get into the game, control the game and ultimately win the game. I will say NYC did have a lot of scoring opportunities. I think they hit the crossbar and the post during this match. They had a couple. Maxi Morales had at least 3 shots that I can remember where he normally scores those goals. He just didn't get any pace on him for whatever reason it was. And Brady was able to come up with a save, or he put him wide. So yeah, there was a lot of opportunity here for New York City to run away with this game. So all in all, take the L. Let's learn from it. Let's move on. Right. That's the only thing we can do. Also, in his email, Tom talks about how Guti's maturity is going to impact the other players, like Hugo Cuypers, who needs the service, like Philip Zinckernagel, who wants to be part of the playmaking and goal scoring, like Jonathan Bamba, who needs to be given that ball from the midfield. You see the runs that Bamba's making, and the midfield is finding him. So when Guti goes out and in comes Davila, you got to think these attackers are like, great, we're never going to get the ball in a good opportunity or in a good position again. So I think that is a reasonable, there's that word again, reasonable. I think that's a reasonable approach to take. However, that might be something I look at if I'm trying to get my bonus at work and it's based on our team performance and I'm busting my butt and the guy next to me is screwing around. On a soccer team, on a sports team, I think the mentality is a little different. Now, in past teams, we have seen it fracture very quickly. Ezra Hendricks, excuse me, Ezra Hendrickson, Frank Klopas, and their staffs were not the type of people to control a locker room. They would lose locker rooms quick. You saw the fractious nature of having guys like Shaqiri and Kai Kamara in the same locker room at the same time. By the way, I guess, do we say congrats to Kai Kamara, who got another contract in MLS again? So I think it's not going to be as bad. Berhalter is going to make a demonstration of this in some way, whether publicly or privately. He's going to get the point across to Gutierrez that he can't continue to behave this way. But also, he is going to make sure that Cuypers and Zinckernagel and Bamba and everyone else continue to play at a high level. I don't think we have to worry about it as much with Cuypers. You saw last season how bad this team was, and Cuypers, to the last minute of the last match, was busting his butt, pressing, making runs. I don't think you have to worry about him having a drop in motivation or attitude or any sort of negative body language or anything like that. Zinckernagel, maybe you got to worry about him a little bit more. And I looked to see when he was on the same side as Jonathan Dean earlier on in the season, and Dean was not playing him the ball or working with him the way he expected it at such a higher level, you saw him get visibly frustrated. But still, these guys are professionals. They are going to make the right play, even if it means passing to a teammate that they don't wholly trust or might be upset with. They still need to give their teammates the opportunities to make the right play. Now, you do it 2 or 3 times, you fail it 2 or 3 times in a couple 3 games in a row, we're talking something different. And yeah, we're probably approaching that point with Gutierrez where they're saying, look, you are inhibiting my goal scoring and my playmaking, not to mention the fact that you're inhibiting the team from winning or drawing and taking points on the road. But I hope Gutierrez is taking it the most to heart, because he is the one that has put his team in such a bad position. And most pro athletes would take that approach. I don't know Gutierrez well enough to say, well, he's only 21, 22, so, maybe he doesn't have that mentality yet. But I like to think that at his level, that's how he's going to take it, that he is going to take it hard, and there's not much animosity going on as a result of it. Now, speaking of that game, just a quick recap here. Again, it's a therapy session here. We got to talk it out. We got to talk about Gutierrez's frustrations. We got to talk about Davila just coming in and committing a whole bunch of fouls to the point where he makes a clean tackle and the referee still calls a PK, gives him a yellow card, second yellow, red, and he's out. So yeah, this is our therapy session here a little bit, kind of going over some of this stuff. But to recap the match, Zinckernagel opened the scoring in the 19th. Then Gutierrez picked up his his red card in the 31st. They were able to hold on and take a 1-0 lead into halftime, But in the second half, it was Bakrar in the 58th, Wolf in the 70th. Davila gets his red card in the 84th, resulting in a Martinez converted PK, and that's the final 3-1. Now, we had a decent lineup here. It was near a choice 11. Gutman, Elliott, Rogers, and Dean is your back line with Brady and net. Pineda, Gutierrez, and Orahel, that homegrown midfield. And then Cuypers up top, Zinckernagel, and Bamba on the wings. Now, when Pineda goes down with his injury, and I haven't seen any updates on it yet, so if anyone's heard anything about Pineda, send it my way. Again, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com or on social media at glasshousesoccer. Pineda goes down with that injury, kind of jeopardizes that homegrown three in the central midfield there. And we see Davila come in. We see he's not quite ready for prime time yet. So I'm thinking that we're going to see Kellyn Acosta in this match against Orlando City, or as Ellie would love to see, Sam Williams, the former Red Bulls 2 product there. So that would be my expectation. Obviously, Davila is going to be out because of a red card suspension. But I think maybe they give him a little time to kind of just observe and cool off and maybe get a little bit more of a feel from the game on the bench before they put him in situations where they're potentially losing points. Now, at the end of the game, we did see Leo Barroso come in. We did see Omari Glasgow, Haile Selassie, and Kwame come in along with Davila, the aforementioned. But we saw Barroso, as soon as he entered the game, New York attacked him immediately. I think it was his first involvement from coming in as a sub that New York attacked his side, and the assist came from the man that he was marking. So New York knew who they were looking for. They knew they were going to try and pick on the young kid, guy coming right back of injury, go down that side with all the subs, Haile Selassie, Glasgow, Barroso, right? And they took advantage of it. And actually on the penalty kick that Davila gave up, the attacker Martinez was being guarded by Barroso. He cuts back to the middle. Barroso slips and falls. So Davila has to make the recovery tackle and then gets called incorrectly, I think, for the yellow card foul and PK and dismissal. So Barroso did not cover himself in glory. We did need him to get some match time to get back into fitness after missing so much time. I don't think he's played since the end of March, to be honest. But this, unfortunately, was not the right time to do it against these attackers of New York City, as hindsight would dictate. Now, looking at the statistics on this match, we'll see how New York City and the Fire, pregame, we said they were about, even on possession. They were about 50-50 on possession on average throughout the season. But in this match, as you would expect, when you go down to 10 and 9 men, New York City ended up with 64% possession. They had 21 shots to the Fire's 8. 8 shots on goal to the Fire's 3. The Fire had 306 passes at 76.5% completion rate. So a very, very defensive game from the Fire. This might be their worst statistical game of the season, obviously, given the red card situation. Only 2 corners, a total of 5 crosses. They did end up getting offside twice. Their XG on the match, though, a 0.4. Brady was credited with 5 saves. The defense had 7 clearances, 19 fouls, 2 yellows, and 2 reds. So not a good performance by any measurement for the Chicago Fire. If you look at the possession intervals during the game, kind of the momentum shifts of this game, the Chicago Fire only controlled 2 5-minute segments of this game, and it was the 5, 10, 15, 30, the 21st to 25th minute, and then the 85th to 95th minute, or 85th to 90th minute, when they were just kind of knocking the ball around and trying to bomb it forward a little bit. So a terrible, terrible match by the Fire, and now they have to get ready and go to Orlando City, down Gutierrez, down Davila, which I guess isn't that big of a loss, but it is going to affect the preparation. Hopefully they can come up with a better lineup, a stronger lineup, and a stronger performance. Orlando City is coming off a midweek game, so they have that going for them. And I think do they also have a red card in that one too, I think? So they're down one of their, I think it was Cesar Rajo. Yeah. So they are, yep. Cesar Araujo, red card in the 77th. So they're down one of their top players as well. So maybe that'll balance things out. But to put a bow on all things Chicago Fire NYC, let's listen to John Donovan as we do. And again, his segment brought to you by Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. John, take it away.
John Donovan here. What a game this weekend, Nick. You know, the New York City club did not win a game. The Chicago Fire lost a game. Nick, I've been on teams where literally on the field you could feel that the coach lost control. Stupid fouls, wrapping back to referees. It all adds up into a no-win situation. I was just amazed, Nick, at Gutierrez, because that was a red card. No doubt about it. If a player goes up and he can't handle himself, then he shouldn't have gone up for that ball. I mean, it would have been a better game. But the other guy that really disappointed me was this Davia guy. You put him in the second half. 3 minutes in, he gets a yellow card for a stupid move, a from the behind move, and then he gets a red card. I would just be at the top of my ticket on that. The game started out, I thought, beautifully. The Fire were playing well. Everyone that's ever listened to me knows I love Chicago players, and the midfield was kicking. And then that red card came along, even though the Fire were winning. And I really think that Gutman goal was a goal. They didn't spend a lot of time looking at that. But no, the Fire lost that game. It's very disappointing when you put Barrasso, who we were looking forward to watch play. I mean, he's got speed. He's a tricky guy. But each game that he has got into for the Fire, immediately, within 5 minutes, he's allowed a goal. And both times the guys went deep, right to the line, and scored on him. The first game, he had a goal to bring back to even up his mistake. This game, he just was not there. I mean, I literally would much prefer Dean over in that spot, much more reliable. And I thought he really had a pretty good game. I was very much involved with him. The one player every week is this darn Cuypers, man. He is, when you say the word striker, that's him. You don't have to be 6'4". You just have to be persistent. And he is both sides. He's always there for whatever opportunities are in front of the goal. I think he might be leading the MLS in scoring. But what a player. Him and I always goof up this name, Zinckernagel. I mean, that guy can play too. That shot he scored on was just beautiful. Right foot, lower left corner, bing, bang, score. And we came back with that Gutman goal, which, again, I thought it was a goal. We would have been up 2-0 before that red card started. But how does a coach look at that game? I would be so disappointed in myself, number one, when a guy in the first half that is liable gets these yellow cards. That's why you have a bench. You play in front of yourself, not behind yourself. If you've got a fullback that picks up a yellow card early in that first half, in my mind, it's just an automatic. You replace him. To play down, your best chances when you have a guy out on a red card is a tie. Very few teams come back to win. I'm not a big fan of a red card in the MLS. I'd much rather see, like, you're off the field for 20 minutes or something. When a fan saves up for a big game, he gets into the game, and 10 minutes into the game, there's a red card. My Lord, it's disappointing. And it really bears down on what's in these players' minds. I mean, you have to be talented to play soccer. You've got to be smart. And I would say you've got to be young and fast. Those are the three concepts that you've got to be to have a professional team. And you just can't tell me with those crazy yellow cards that were, just stupid. In our offensive zone, they're bringing down guys from behind. It just does not make sense. So I'm sure Berhalter's going to deal with this. Davila, he would not be playing for quite a while. In fact, I think he'd be on that second squad, trying to earn his place back onto the team. Very concerning. And then with Pineda going down, I think that kind of hurt the squad. He's a very steady, experienced center midfielder, and that might have hurt. Maybe this De Bruyne trade or signing might be more necessary than I thought. We literally do not have much of on our bench beyond Haile Selassie, and if Pineda hit the bench because De Bruyne is coming, it probably would be the best. We just have to pick up our quality off the bench. So, Nick, little bit disappointing. We're 5-4, and I think 3. So we're still on the edge of the playoffs. It's just we had 3 games. We were playing so well, and we started out this game well. I was not looking forward to seeing a game on Yankee Stadium field because it annoys me that we're playing on a baseball field. But let's go for next week. At least we've got a squad that has a chance. It'd be interesting next week whether Pineda can play and who's going to play in there for Davila and Gutierrez. I'd love to see them bring up somebody from the Fire second team. It would be good to see. But take care, guys. Take care, Mike. Nick, John,
thank you so much again for your recap and analysis. Really do appreciate it. Just a couple of comments. I had almost forgotten about that Gutman goal that was called offside. He was not offside. However, the assistant referee put his flag up during the play, meaning the play is dead and it could not be reviewed. Had he kept his flag down until the goal was scored, and the referee blows the whistle for the goal and then puts his flag up, then VAR could have gone back and reviewed it. So that was a mistake by the assistant referee. Like, for him to be so certain that Gutman was offside that he put his flag up right away, I don't see it. I think that was a mistake by the AR, and that he should have allowed the goal to go in, the play to finalize, and then put his flag up. That way we could at least have a VR review on it. And yeah, maybe things are different. If we're up 2-0, does that red card come into play? Does the other red card happen? Do the Fire take a different approach to things in the second half? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Hindsight's 2020, all this type of stuff. But yeah, that would have been something huge. Also, talking about Cuypers, you're like, he doesn't have to be 6'4". He's actually 6'1", just to throw that out there as well. And speaking of Cuypers in the Golden Boot race, Cuypers is sitting in the 12th spot for the Golden Boot race on 8 goals. Right now, the Golden Boot leader, Ty Baribo of Philadelphia, on 13 goals, followed by Brian White with 10. Then we have Chicho Orango, we have Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, we have Sam Surridge and Kevin Danke, all on 9 goals. And then we have a group of players on 8 goals, which include Alonso Martinez, Diego Luna, Leo Messi, Martin Ojeda, Diego Rossi, and Hugo Cuypers. And then there's 6 guys who have 7 goals and a whole bunch of players who have 5 and 6 goals. So Cuypers is not, he's still kind of a dark horse here to win the Golden Boot. But I think, does the Golden Boot use assists as a tiebreaker, or does it use non-penalty goals as the tiebreaker? Because if assists are the tiebreaker, Cuypers still only has 2, while a lot of the other players ahead of him in goals have 3 and 4 assists as well. So got a lot of ground to make up. No reason he can't do it. No reason he can't start this weekend against Orlando City. This Orlando City team is sitting 5th in the table on 27 points. They have 7 wins, 3 losses, and 6 draws, as opposed to the Fire, who are in 11th on 19 points, 5 wins, 5 losses, 4 draws. Except the Fire are 4 wins, 4 losses away, and a win, a loss, and 4 draws at home. So take that for what it's worth. Are the Fire still those road warriors that we thought they were a few weeks back? So again, looking at Orlando City, they have 30 goals scored, 19 allowed. They're one of the top scoring teams in the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia has 32 and Miami has 31. And if you're looking in the Western Conference, San Jose Quakes have 33 goals despite being down in the 7th spot. And no other team in the Western Conference has more than 27. So good offensive team that the Chicago Fire are coming up against. Decent defensive team that they are coming up against as well. Also, Orlando in an okay run of form, I guess. They've had results that are up and down. Most recently, this past Wednesday night, they had a 3-2 loss at Atlanta. Previously, they won at home to Portland 1-0 and lost at home to Nashville 3-2. They went to Miami a few weeks back and won 3-0. And prior to that, 3-1 victory at Charlotte and a 3-3 draw at home to New England. So Orlando's kind of been up and down, but they've been scoring goals. That concerns me. It concerns me that the Fire are going to need a minimum of 2, probably 3 goals. I'd say a minimum of 2 to draw and at least 3 goals to win this game. Excuse me. My throat is still recovering from yelling at soccer all weekend. So the Fire are going to need to score goals. That's going to be a tough challenge with Gutierrez out, especially the way he's been playing and moving the ball forward. However, Orlando is without one of their top players, Cesar Araujo, though he scored in the 4th minute against Atlanta, ended up picking up a 77th minute red card, which then allowed Atlanta to come back and score 2 more goals after that. TRA gets the 90+5 stoppage time winner to beat Orlando 3-2. Now, how did Orlando line up in that game? Just so we can kind of get a sense of how they might want to play and who we can expect in this matchup. Pedro Gallese started in goal. They played a 4-4-2 with Bricalo as the left back, Freeman as the right back, Robin Janssen and Robert Schlegel as your center backs. And those guys are going to pose a very tough test for Hugo Cuypers, Zinckernagel, Bamba, anyone who gets anywhere near shooting range. Their midfielders were, from left to right, Ivan Angulo, Cesar Araujo, Joran Gerbert, apologies for the mispronunciations, and Marco Pasalic. Their 2 strikers, Ramiro Enrique and Martin Ojeda. We did see Eddie Atuesta, Dagger Thorhalson, Luis Muriel, Kyle Smith, Duncan McGuire all come off the bench for them in that game. They still also have Otero, Taifi, Santos, and Mohammed on the bench as well, available for them. So they're probably going to be playing a 4-4-2. They are going to be at home. They're going to be comfortable. They are going to be looking for some possession and really finding their strikers in dangerous areas. Now, I say possession. They only had 42% possession against Atlanta in their last match, but you got to remember, that's even with going down to 10 men with about 20 minutes left in the game. They still had 407 passes, 42% possession. So we know that they are going to be able to counter, but also maintain possession of the ball and pick their moments when they can. The Fire are going to be pressing, and so we will see if Orlando succumbs to that press. But who are the stars to look out for on this Orlando roster? As far as goal scorers, it's Martin Ojeda, who leads the way with 8. Marco Pasalic and Luis Muriel have 6. Then it is Alexander Freeman. Excuse me if I said his name incorrectly earlier. Alexander Freeman on 3 goals. And then you have Enrique, Thorhalson, Araujo, and McGuire with 2 and 1 goals apiece. So those are goal scorers. Those are the guys who are going to be the targets once they get in the offensive third. Ojeda additionally has 4 assists. So he's leading the team in goals and assists, and he is leading the team in key passes. He's leading the team in expected goals. He's leading the team. Okay, he's 3rd in shots on target, but he is also 3rd in overall shots. So he is the man for Orlando City. And if they can shut down Ojeda somehow, some way, maybe this is the game where we bring in Kellyn Acosta and just say, shadow Ojeda, and we'll see if his legs can keep up with him. And that could be a way to shut down this team. But that's the player to watch. That's the guy who's going to be driving this Orlando City team. If you want to look at other players with high key passing numbers relative to their to their roster, it's Muriel, it's Freeman, it's Atuesta. Those are the guys who are going to be driving things going forward. If you want to look defensively, let's see, aerial duels won. Freeman's won 68 aerial duels. Bricalo 42, Muriel 34. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us any more kind of context on that, so we'd have to compare that to some of the other teams to see. But it is, again, Schlegel and Janssen with 31 and 28 clearances, respectively, on the season, the highest on their team by far. So those guys are very, very active in defense. They're also very active committing fouls. Schlegel's committed 14 on the season, Janssen 7, Bricalo 15. So maybe if the Fire can put some pressure on Bricalo, force him into a tight spot, win some free kicks, get some balls in from the side, they might have a chance. And my prediction on this one is a 2-2 draw. I don't think the Fire have the offense in them at this point to go on the road again to Orlando City, bag 3 or 4 and win the match. But given the red cards to both teams, given the midweek play of Orlando City, I think a 2-2 draw is a reasonable, there's that word again, expectation, and that's what I'm predicting on this one. So with that, Fire fans and MLS fans and just soccer fans in general, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, for spending some time, letting me entertain you here a little bit, letting me inform you a little bit. It really still is weird after podcasting in some fashion or other for 8 years or so, like that you would choose to listen to me talk about stuff. That is something. Maybe I have imposter syndrome even still, but thank you for allowing me to inform you, entertain you, be a part of your soccer, your MLS and Chicago Fire consumption. Remember, like, subscribe, rate, review, share the show, continue to comment and write in. And as always, let's go Fire.